Hey peeps. I thought I'd open in a different way today. I'm Connie from Gliding Through Blindness, and um, today we have a topic I haven't really touched on before, and I wasn't really planning to, but I posted on it recently on Facebook in a group, um, and got some cool responses. And there's this one gal, Claire, who really I could really relate to. She just said some similar things to how I do things, which is kind of how not the same as how most people do things in my experience. But she was just basically saying, listen to your body. And I was just thinking about that and thought, yeah, that would make a good title for this video because that's basically what I do too. Like if your body is craving something, don't always be denying it, and don't go overboard either. And I just think that's the key balance. And just listen to what your body is telling you and ask yourself, what have I been doing differently, or why is my body suddenly doing this now? And then try to make changes accordingly. But I'm going to get into a lot more of that here as we get into the video. But before I do, I just wanted to say that we're almost at 500 subscribers. Woohoo! And I've done more than 100 videos now in less than a year. So that's pretty nifty, seeing as how I just basically started this YouTube channel from scratch. I mean, I didn't have a huge audience of people that I could uh, recruit or whatever to subscribe or anything like that. So I just, but I thought I had a story to tell, and slowly but surely, people are subscribing and find value in the different things I offer, which I talk about a lot of different stuff on this list or in this channel. So it's not just dedicated to one kind of topic like a lot of other channels are. So it's probably harder for me in a way to get subscribers as quickly because some people just want a channel that basically focuses on one thing, whereas I talk about a lot of different things. But in a way, I kind of like that, even though it might mean it takes me longer to grow. And I was thinking it's kind of like my brother too, who uh, is very eclectic as a musician and likes a lot of different styles of music and plays a lot of different styles of music. So that probably meant that he isn't as well known or whatever as he would be if he just specialized in one thing and basically did what the overlords said would work or whatever. I think it's a lot more important to do what makes you happy and what really drives you, and uh, yeah, let the chips fall where they may, I guess. But anyway, not sure how I got quite on that whole tangent, but be sure to look at my recent videos. There was one that I did with my sister, Kim, and we call it Convos with Kim because we try to do it once a month. And we're twins, so we sound a lot alike, and we just do a Zoom call or whatever. And I pretty much let her have the floor, and then I just comment periodically. And she really delves into topics in a different way, I think, than you would see, like just topics that make you think. And just in a different way to what you are probably used to. I think that's really important to just think about all different perspectives. And like the one she did recently, for example, was all about the lines that are arbitrarily drawn in society. And you kind of have to draw lines or have boundaries or whatever in order to function effectively, but yet can those lines ever be changed? I mean, are they just set in stone once you draw them, and is that a good thing? And why can't we change them? And how can we change the lines that we draw as we evolve or circumstances change or just whatever the case might be? And so that's just a topic that um, I find very compelling. And it didn't get as many views as her others, and I think that's just because last week was such a crazy week in the news and whatnot. And I'd love to talk about all that more in depth too, because I think I have a more nuanced, probably, I'm not sure, but yeah, there's only so much I can cover because I don't want to overwhelm you with videos either. But just how so many things are not set in stone, or like they you can't just draw a clear like this is right and this is wrong, because so many things just overlap. And I'm just learning this more and more, like you may really be against this one thing with all your mind, but then another thing you it kind of overlaps with that, so you kind of have to compromise, but yet how much should we compromise? And I've just been thinking about a lot of that lately, and it kind of spurred in my mind topics for a lot of other videos that I may do at some point. But I kind of let her talk about some of the more not controversial or things on the edge more than I do myself. And so yeah, that's kind of what she's been contributing to the channel, so be sure to um, check that out if you really just want to think and process different ways that you might not have considered, um, of how we should do and what part can we play in this huge society. Sometimes it seems like individuals don't have all that much control, but I think we do. If nothing else, just in our small corner of the world, we can effect change, even though it might not be at a local or like a government level or national level or anything. We can still all do our part, I think. Um, so anyway, after that long-winded, if hopefully you still found it intriguing, even though it wasn't necessarily about this topic, but yeah. So I'm getting back now to my health. I have to say, first of all, as a disclaimer, that I'm sure the particular approach I'm going to share with you would not, for sure, would not work for most or a lot of other people, because everyone's bodies are just so different. But I'm just telling you about myself as a template or whatever, that you can build your own approach on, or the things that work for you. Because I think we can all learn to listen to our bodies more than we do. And I certainly am more now than when I was younger. You just have to pay more attention as you get older and things don't work quite as well as they used to. Um, and But one thing about me, I'm just automatically very healthy by nature, which is just a real blessing that I know a lot of people um, don't have that luxury. And I can also go like a long time without food and it doesn't bother me. And I guess there's just something about my metabolism or whatever. My son, I think, is really similar in that way too. But just like a lot of people, if they skip a meal or whatever, they get a headache or they have other symptoms, and their body just needs to eat more uh, at a more regular intervals. And I'm glad that I don't have to, because it would be a lot harder, I'm sure, for me to control my weight or be as healthy if I had to eat like 3 regular meals every day, which I um, did definitely eat more when I was my kids were little, and I was responsible for making sure they ate regularly and stuff. So then I would just eat with them, of course, or whatever, and we wanted to eat together as a family and everything. But I was definitely overweight at that time too. And for me, I just have found now the ideal weight that works for me, where I mean, I could definitely still lose some pounds, but yet this is just um, the weight that I've picked basically for now, anyway. I mean, it could always change and has changed, but where I can still enjoy like dessert sometimes and snacks. Like I love my salty, like potato chips and stuff like that. So, um, I have a talking scale, which I think is really important to keep tabs on your weight, but yet not be like totally compulsive about it either, because that can lead to you finally get sick of that after a while, and then you end up quitting your diet and gain more weight than ever. But I'm not a fan of dieting per se. I'm just a fan of watching my weight regularly, and if I am heavier than I want to be, I simply just stop eating for a while, which, like I said, is easier said than done for some people. But for me, that's just a policy I've adopted. Um, and I think environment does influence our how we view our health too. Like my parents uh, never liked going to doctors, and I mean we didn't live near a doctor or whatever. We didn't live in town, and to our like the hospital was like a half hour away or more, and just their mindset in general. They just believed in trying everything yourself first and homegrown remedies and stuff like that. Um, and they didn't have much money or insurance or anything like that. Which that's another racket. I could do a whole video on the whole insurance scandal, and I think that's one of the major things that needs to be corrected in our health, just our healthcare system in general. And I mean, I was just listening to a very intriguing podcast the other day that just having more transparency, there is a word they use that I can't think of right now, but just if we actually knew the real cost of things, and if people could, if different companies or medical entities could uh, compete, and then we could choose the price point that fit for with our budget and our circumstances. But instead, it's just such a massive. Anyway, I don't want to get too far off the beaten path here, but um, just the whole waiting in the waiting room thing I hate. And the Yeah, so I'll you to go to the doctor as a last resort too. Of course, I'm not opposed at all to seeking medical help when I need it. And I some people go too far to extremes too, where they wait too long before seeking medical attention. But as soon as my approaches weren't working, I would definitely seek medical help. But I like to do my own research first and kind of look at various different theories or whatever, and then pick one and try it or whatever for a while. Because I've just seen so many instances too where, I mean, doctors are only human as well, and they oftentimes don't have the answers or can't figure out why things are not working right. And then you have to go through many tests, and that can just all be stressful too. And sometimes even those don't find out. Um, and so I think it's possible that some people can put like too much trust in their doctor. I mean, I don't really, don't sue me or don't, well, feel free to comment though, because I wish more of you would comment, because especially on topics like this, I'm sure there's a lot that you could say where you think I'm wrong, or how you tips and tricks that you've learned. And I hope you will all share that stuff in the comments, because I can learn, because that's what led to this video, and stimulated more conversation. And I'm just always wanting to check my viewpoints and change them when need be. And that's kind of the theme of this whole channel, is how people evolve and change over time, which I definitely have done. But Yeah, so we could talk about the whole thing of like vaccines too, where I like none of my or my, why I didn't vaccinate my kids because how was that now? Because Carissa, um, well, yeah, I'm not going to share too many personal details, I guess, but just uh yeah, I think I mean, I wouldn't say there has that a vaccine has never led to a bad outcome, but by and large, I mean, now people have the luxury of choosing not to vaccinate their kids, but the reason they have that luxury is because the vast majority of other people around them are vaccinated. Otherwise, I mean, I would sure hate to go back to the days of polio and um, just all those very scary, where many people, like, you can almost count if you go back far enough, where almost everyone lost at least one child because of not having vaccines. Just a simple thing like that was just a miracle cure, really. Um, but I'm glad that people have choices too. But I mean, I don't, that's a whole other video we could do. And also the whole concept of antibiotics. I mean, I'm not a fan of those, because I mean, I think they've been overused. They definitely have their place, but if you give too many of them, then your body can build up an immune system um, to them, and then they don't work as effectively after that. And so we just have to really watch for things like that. And sometimes there's these long-term things that you might not see right away, but they over time it's discovered that this, if this certain food or this certain whatever can have negative outcomes. So I mean, you can just really drive yourself nuts thinking about all that too much as well, which is why I've just found what works for me, and I don't spend a lot of time like thinking about maybe I should be taking more of this, because the latest research, the latest study shows that this can really help with Alzheimer's or heart condition or whatever. But as long as I'm feeling very good and healthy now and paying attention to what my body is telling me, I just that's just cool. And if that ever stops working, like I said, then I'll think, okay, something's not working like it used to. Let's figure out why, and then I might do more studies into the possible causes. And so, like, there is something to be said for early detection of things, but there again, yeah, I think you can just go too far. Or like some people now are saying, I'm just gonna let my AI tell me everything. Like whenever the AI gets good enough, like it's gonna totally control your life. And I personally would hate that. Like, totally leave it up to your AI how much you should eat and what you should eat, and oh, you're 10 calories over now, so let's just drop that back. I mean, I would not want to do that personally, but I mean, if other people want to have that total security and have everything checked so that everything is can be treated ahead of time for preventative, which I definitely do believe in, just preventative behaviors in general, like don't consume a lot of alcohol because it's been proven that over time that's not good or whatever. But yeah, just everything in balance, I think, is a good uh, good policy that I choose to live by, and not go overboard in any one thing. Um, like my dad was really into vitamins and stuff during the last part of his life, but he was just like he had to take so many per day, and I just would not want to do that personally. Uh, but yeah, kind of like therapy too, which is a concept I've been thinking about more lately. I mean, I think it has very positive outcomes, but it can also um be harmful in some contexts too. But you have to look at the overall it's definitely been proven to be a good thing. So but just to realize that no, there's not one solution that's going to be the miracle cure for anything. We have to do our part and figure out if something is working, and try different things. Don't be afraid to go for a second opinion. And um, yeah, there's just not one size fits all or one cut and dry solution, and nothing is totally right or totally wrong for all of humanity. And I am looking forward to the day when AI can totally know our body and what particular drug mixture or whatever might work for us, like that we can just kind of have personalized medicines, or medicines that are tailored for us in particular. Because even though they might find or be able to invent or whatever medicines that work for the vast majority of people, there's always going to be outliers and people that didn't work for. and people where it might even have made things worse. So that is one of the exciting things about this age, that things can be a lot more tailor made and a lot earlier detection of potential bad things that can happen and stuff like that. Um, and so anyway, um, so when my daughter was very young, she developed rheumatoid arthritis in her knees, and they like swelled up like to twice the size or even more. Like they were just huge, and it got to the point where she had a hard time walking. Sometimes I would have to carry her. She was like 3 or 4, something like that, and the doctor, the pediatrician that we took her to, said that we would have to take her to Minneapolis, which is far from where we are, many hours, and that we would have to do this regularly because there weren't any juvenile or rheumatologists or whatever where we were. And so we would have to probably, she would probably have to have surgery, and she would have to take Motrin daily, um, which wow, I mean, just to bring the inflammation down. And we are just supposed to ignore all the side effects of doing something long term like that, because we had the urgent was crowding out the important. Like we had to figure out a way for her to be pain free and take, but yet we sure didn't want to go down that road either if it could be avoided. um, And it just so happened that a lady from church sold a product called Juice Plus. And when we told her about our daughter and stuff, she just said that we should try it. And we just thought, yeah, another one of these things that don't really work or whatever. But this lady believed in it so much that she just gave us a bunch for free to try. um, which wow, I mean, if just thinking about if she wouldn't have done that. But anyway, so we thought, well, it can't hurt to give it a try. So um, we started giving it to her, and immediately, or I mean, I'm not really positive now how long it took, but I mean, it became apparent very soon that the swelling in her knees was going down. And I mean, this wasn't even one of the things that Juice Plus like advertised specifically. Like you can go on their website now, and I don't think there's going to be anything about that. But it was useful for so many things, and it was so natural. All it is capsules, or now they have gummies, which are even better. They are flavored and chewable and all that. And it's just fruits and vegetables condensed into this one capsule form or gummy form. And because the advertisements on there says that people need way more fruits and vegetables every day than you can possibly eat. I mean, especially if you're like me and don't really like fruits and vegetables that much. um, I knew I probably wasn't as good at giving my kids vegetables either, because I knew how much I hated them. But ironically, they love them. And a lot of times when we go to a buffet or whatever, they'll eat mainly, especially my daughter will just pick the fruits and vegetables. It's kind of funny. But yeah, so um, that's why I just knew it was a natural, like it couldn't hurt her for sure. It could only help. And it just, we were just amazed though. We weren't expecting it to work like it did. I mean, we thought, well, yeah, it's just going to be like a vitamin. If nothing else, we can just give it to her. And, but it really did miracle for her. Um, and so then I started taking it because I started having knee problems too, nothing like hers, but it was getting hard for me to like stoop down and like go up and down stairs and stuff. But whenever I would take it regularly, the symptoms went away. And I mean, I know there's this whole like, what do you call it? when it's not really helping, but you think it is. So, shoot, why is that term leaving my mind? I hate it when that happens, but I'm sure it'll probably come to me before this video ends. But um, whatever the reason, if it does help, like sometimes your body can be fooled into thinking something is helping when it's just a placebo. That's the word I'm thinking of. Like where some people are given a thing that they think is, but it's just basically a sugar pill or whatever, but yet their symptoms do improve and there's no getting around that fact. So to me, I say it's all to the good, even though they were just fooled into thinking it. I mean, the mind is a powerful thing. If the mind had triggered something in their body, like some kind of chemical imbalance, I think that that can be as legitimate as the actual medicine if it ends up actually solving the problem and not just making you think that it's solved when it's really not, which is a whole nother road we could go down too. Um, so anyway, so I still take Juice Plus. I don't think my daughter does anymore, but I don't take it regularly. It's kind of expensive. And I've just found that I don't need to take it all the time. I mean, I was recently giving my sister a lecture and telling her that she should take it um, because of this nagging cough she has all the time, and I just know that would solve it. But I think she would probably have to take it regularly for a long time just for her body to get like regulated to it since she's never taken it or whatever. But like I um, just have learned to listen to my body and I don't have rigid rules. So I don't necessarily go by what it says to do on the package. Which of course is dangerous. I'm not telling this to anybody. If you're taking a prescribed medicine, you shouldn't necessarily try to say, well, I'm going to just take less than what this says. I mean, I probably would be tempted to do that, but this is not medical advice, so that's just my personality. I would probably try to take as little as possible if it was still having a good result. But I mean, yeah, just everything in moderation. But of course, doing that with a prescribed medicine is a lot more dangerous as well. But this was just Juice Plus, and I've just learned, like for me, if like I took it regularly for years, but then I stopped because I was well. First, decided to take even more than what they said, because what could it hurt? All it meant was I was taking more fruits and vegetables, but after a while, I started getting sores in my mouth and stuff, and I figured out that that was why, because my tongue would start to tingle or whatever right after I would take, or shortly after I would take it, and I was just able to narrow down that this was what was causing that. So then I decreased my consumption, and it still wasn't enough. So I had to start taking other things for my needs in addition to the Juice Plus. I would take like glucosamine chondroitin or um, uh, what was the other turmeric I took in conjunction. And eventually I had to stop the Juice Plus altogether to get my body regulated again. So then I just stopped probably for a year or more too, and just took a break because I was feeling fine. My knees were doing fine. And after that, I started to notice I was like starting to lose energy because Juice Plus is just really good at boosting your energy. And it what else, like my knees were starting to act up a little bit again and stuff, so I thought I'd just slowly start taking it again. But they recommend like 2 of each kind every day, 2 of the vegetable and 2 of the fruit, but I just started with 1. But then I got a cold and I knew how it could just knock out a cough, so like while I was sick or whatever, I took more, like probably 3 of each kind every day or whatever. um, but then once my cough was over, because it just would knock that out, and my colds hardly ever um, lasted very long and weren't very bad as long as I would take that. And but then I started to feel this tingling in my tongue again. So before it turned into full blown canker sores and stuff, I backed off right away on the Juice Plus and would just take 1 a day and stuff. So yeah, like I said, just listening to your body and following, like making changes accordingly, has been what works for me. Um, and so um, So yeah, for me, it's just kind of been an all-purpose thing. But like I said, I haven't had many health issues, fortunately. But so that's always the first thing I recommend to people, especially if it's with something that I've personally dealt with, like a cold or like arthritic symptoms or things like that that I've experienced. Um, so anyway, just to wrap this up here, I'll just give you some of my quick and dirty tricks that I do. I just don't have tempting foods around me because if I do, I'll indulge too much. So I've just learned that about myself. Like I'll just have one bag of chips per week or sweets a couple times a week. And But yeah, I don't count steps or do the Fitbit thing or count calories or do anything like that. But I do weigh myself regularly, and I usually only eat one big meal per day, but it can be whatever I want. And if like I just yeah, eat as much as I want, and don't worry about all the health stuff or whatever per se. But I do, like, if I'm on vacation or whatever, I don't worry about sticking to any kind, like my usual routine or whatever. I'll eat when everybody else does, and I'll probably eat more than normal because I know I can just easily lose the weight if I want to whenever the vacation is over or whatever, or if I have company or whatever. Or if there's somebody has snacks, I'll usually say yes because I just like to treat myself like that because I know if you never do, then you or just risk, like I said, going overboard the other way because you finally get sick of just restricting yourself and denying yourself so much. So I don't believe in any of that. Um, and so, what else? Yeah, I just like to keep things as simple as and uncomplicated as possible. I also think getting at least a minimum of exercise is important. Oh, but back to the eating, I skip a couple days per week too, and I fast and don't eat anything. But it doesn't bother me. I mean, I drink plenty of fluids and stuff on those days or whatever. But I just kind of think that's important too to kind of cleanse your body and just not. I mean, I don't think in general, people just have to eat as much as they think, and it's probably more of a habitual thing than anything. Like at this time of day, I must eat, or they. But once you just get used to not doing that and realizing you don't have to, at least for some people, that's just kind of what's worked for me. That I don't really have a regular eating schedule per se. Um, and I used to drink a lot of pop, and I still drink probably more than I should, but I've cut way back on my soda intake. And my favorites are Diet Pepsi and Diet Mountain Dew. I used to not drink the diet, but I was gaining too much weight when with all that sugar. And now the diet drinks, I actually prefer the taste. And now there's like Pepsi Zero and Mountain Dew Zero, which taste, I mean, just as good, I think, if not better than the, like, yeah, I don't even order, like, if I accidentally do have a real Pepsi sometimes, I don't like it nearly as much. Um, but but I had to stop some of that because I if I to have too much caffeine, even though I really liked the energy boost or whatever, but if I have too much, my throat starts to close up. So that was just another instance where I was listening to my body, and I figured out, when does this happen? Oh, it's usually right after I drink my Pepsi or whatever. So if I have too much of that, I just have learned how much I can have, and yeah, like sometimes I was having trouble with my bowel movements or whatever, and I figured out that I just have to drink more liquids, and that helps, or more water in particular. Like the other, like the soda, if I have too much of that, that affects that too, your digestion and your whole body system or whatever. So you just have to pay attention to. Like I figured out that drinking coffee, it's not necessarily but it's just that the caffeine works as a stimulant for your colon and like pushes things and gets things moving sometimes or whatever. So that's why I like have drink coffee drink pretty regularly now, like once a day. I've ordered some things on Amazon because I don't like making it myself, I'm too lazy. But I drink do stuff like that just because I like the taste, and I like like it has helped me in other ways too. So those are just some of the ways in which I've learned the signals of my body and act accordingly and adjust accordingly. And after a time, you get used to the new way of doing things and you realize I really don't need to have this much Pepsi all the time or whatever. But so yeah, exercising for at least 20 minutes a day, or at least, or sometimes I'll just wait till the end of the week and then do all my rowing machine at one time. I also have an exercise bike and an elliptical, but the rowing machine is what I use most often, and I don't do anything intensive at all. It's just important to keep your body moving more than anything so you don't get all stove up, as they say, especially as you get older. It's just important to go for a walk or whatever, or um, just do something to keep things circulating the way you should. You don't really have to concentrate on building all this muscle or making sure you're improving, like doing more this week than last week. Just find what works for you. And but I think 20 minutes a day is probably the minimum that I would personally recommend. And So yeah, sleep. I'd sleep as much as I want, at least 8 hours usually. And of course, that's easier now too as the kids have gotten older. Like sometimes, or when my kids grew up, I didn't have to worry about being awake for their schedule, but I do try to stay awake during the daytime hours. Sometimes I'll take a nap for an hour or two in the afternoons, but for the most part, I like to, it's important to be awake when other people are awake and sleep when the rest of society does. But it would be very easy for me to just totally be on an opposite schedule if I wanted to, which is kind of good in a way to be flexible. But um, yeah, like sometimes I'll just stay up all night and reading a book or whatever, and then I'll sleep more the next day. But I try to get things back on track as much as possible because you can totally get messed up that way too by just not having some sort of regulation or routine, I think. But yeah, I just really think sleep is important and people don't value it enough. They try to cram too many activities into their lives and stuff, I think. And anyway, so with that, I'm going to draw this to a close. Um, and please spread the word about this channel because there's something for everybody, I think, because I do have a lot of different interests and things that I talk about on here. And I can't wait to tell you about some of the things I've planned for this year, but some of them are kind of secret for various reasons. I just like the surprise, or there's just anyway. I do have a lot of cool things I think planned for this year, so be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.